Welcome to footballgameplan.com, where football makes sense alongside the czar of the playbook. It's Emery Hunt, and I'm Tyler Merkovich, and today we're bringing you our Mountain West Conference preview. And Emery, the story of college football last year, the 13-0 Utah Utes led by Kyle Whittingham. Now they're getting Congress involved, that they don't have a fair chance to win the BCS title, but they graduated a bunch of guys, drafted a couple guys, Sean Smith, Paul Kruger. They lose their option quarterback, Brian Johnson, and they bring in 12 JUCO players. Utah has been doing this for the last couple of years, dating back to the Steve Smith days. Now they bring in 12, so they're relying on that JUCO field. What are the prognosis for this upcoming season?
Well, if I was to tell you, if you was to tell me like, hey, we had a real good defense last year. We get 7 starters back. I'm like, great, we're gonna have a great defense again. Problem is, 3 of those guys that we lost were NFL draft picks. So hopefully they can replace those guys, but the defense should still be stout. I like the fact that they went 13-0. They have to find a quarterback to replace that leader, Brian Johnson. He was real good last year for those guys. But I do like the running back, Matt Asiata. Big guy. You know, he could double with the shotgun offense as well as far as like the direct dives. I like him. They lose their top 3 wide receivers, you know, so they have to find a way to replace that in the passing game. And to me, the schedule is favorable for them to run the tables again. Their biggest game is September 19th at Oregon. If they can get past Oregon, then they can look to be undefeated again.
Terrence Kane, small guy, only listed at 5'11", about 185. Looks like to be an option quarterback, which Brian Johnson excelled in last year. Utah, don't expect them to do what they did last year. But 2 teams that we both love head into class. They actually scheduled 2 out-of-conference games that will help them out if they want to make a BCS bid. And it's BYU who hosts Florida State, and they open up against Oklahoma and Dallas. And it's TCU who plays 2 road games against ACC foes, Virginia and Clemson.
That's a big game. I'm going to start off with TCU. That's a big game when they go down to South Carolina and play Clemson. When you have a good defense and you're looking at a good offense in Clemson, you always want to side with the defense. So I'm real interested to see how that plays out with TCU's top-rated defense. Yeah, they lose Jason Phillips, but they also replace him with a guy, the DN guy.
Jerry Hughes.
Jerry Hughes is a man. That guy there is off the charts. He's going to be another high draft pick for that defense over there. So I like TCU. The only question I have with TCU on their schedule is just Clemson. I think again they can run the tables as well. I mean, you look at it, Andy Dalton, Turner, the running back, comes in with 11 touchdowns. Dalton completed 6% of his passes. I like TCU in Mountain West.
Jimmy Young, also a receiver, and Gary Patterson has one of the most underrated programs in America, the Horned Frogs of TCU. So let's talk about a team that I love, that I think is going to win the conference. And since TCU joined the conference in 2005, a preseason favorite has never won the conference. BYU last year preseason conference came in 3rd. This year, they're preseason favorites to win it, and I think that trend breaks. I like BYU to win the conference this year.
They have a real good quarterback in Max Hall out there in Provo, Utah. One thing that's going to help them out, true freshman, tight end, Richard Wilson is an awesome player. They have a veteran offensive line, veteran defense. A lot of those guys coming back this year off the mission. So they're going to be good this year. BYU is always a good football team. I like BYU.
Every time they have a senior quarterback, they seem to win a lot. They also got Dennis Pitta, who's a great tight end also. So you mentioned the freshman too. Those are 2 weapons.
As well as the big running back, Harvey Unga, is a real good guy. He can play running back or fullback in the pros, so he could be a high back or a single back. I like Unga. They have a real solid team out there in BYU, and they always play well.
Last year they only had 3 returning starters on defense. This year they have around, I'm not sure if it's 7 or 8, but Jan Jorgensen's a beast around the edge, and he's already the all-time sack leader in the Mountain West. So I think with a solid defense, they're going to make some noise.
One thing they got to improve on defense is that pass completion percentage. 61% of the opponent's quarterbacks completed passes on them. That's not a good look, especially in the high-octane offenses in the Mountain West. They got to improve that.
Let's talk about a couple other teams, and let's go to UNLV, who had a shocker last year. This team's led by Omar Clayton, and they shocked Arizona State last year, 23-20 in overtime.
Omar Clayton is a guy that has 18 touchdowns and 4 interceptions coming into this season, so he's a real good passer. They have 7 starters on both offense and defense returning. They got a real easy schedule. Their big game is October the 10th at BYU comes to these guys. They come to Las Vegas, and play UNLV. Problem with UNLV that keeps them out of the top 3 is that defense is terrible. They have to improve that defense. I do like Ryan Wolf, though, the wide receiver, 1,000 yards last year. But until they stop somebody, they're looking, to finish 4th in that division.
Option football, Air Force. Of course, they love to run the option. Got a new coach in there a couple years ago. Are they going to make a run at the title? We think they're going to be mid-level. I don't think they're going to make a run there.
I don't think they're going to make a run. The defense is a problem. Air Force is hit or miss. Air Force is a team that they can show up one week, great on offense and defense, show up another week, don't look too well on defense. But one thing they have that's consistent is that option attack. And like we said, option football is one of the toughest types of football to defend. So they're going to be good on offense. The question, if they can be consistent on defense, they could give a run for the title, but they have to be consistent on defense. And that's a tough order for those guys in Colorado.
Back at the conference, San Diego State, absolutely terrible year last year. Quarterback Ryan Lindley, wide receiver Vincent Brown. Any thoughts on the Aztecs?
Aztecs, as much as I like San Diego State, they just can't. They gave up 31.7 points a game last year on defense. You're not going to beat anybody anywhere. I mean, they had a real good output last year against New Mexico where they blew them out 70-7. That was it. Everywhere else they got blown. It was a shootout. And if you can't show up that defense, I mean, one thing I do like about those guys, Vincent Brown, the big receiver, I like him. But everywhere else, I mean, they got the 2 running backs returning, but I really want them to improve their defense. 37 points a game they gave up last year. You're not going to win. I don't care what level of football you're playing. 37 points a game is atrocious.
Steve Fairchild took over Colorado State, and they're looking at the bottom of the conference. They lose a great tailback I loved last year.
Cottrell Johnson.
Exactly. And what do you think they're going to do this year?
They lose a top quarterback in Billy Farris. They lose Cottrell Johnson. They have a porous defense, so this is a rebuilding year for those guys. The biggest game always is the first game, the border war against Colorado. So they have to win that game to springboard the season. But other than that, they're going to be finishing up probably last, not dead last like Wyoming would probably finish. But Colorado State doesn't look like to have a real good successful season this year.
A new regime in New Mexico. Mike Loxley, the former offensive coordinator at Illinois and Florida under Ron Zook, he takes over and he wants to run a no-huddle spread offense. Is it going to work?
Spread offense always has a shot because it keeps defense on their toes. You have to read your keys and play sound football. One person to keep an eye on that's going to help out that new coach, true freshman running back, Damon Dennis, is a real good prospect, and he has the opportunity to start as a true freshman.
Good tidbit there. And Wyoming, of course, new head coach, Dave Christensen, who was the offensive coordinator at Missouri. That offense set records the last couple of years. And they got to play Texas and Colorado in consecutive weeks. I mean, does it get any harder and tougher to recruit in Wyoming? And can that team improve anyhow? Cowboys?
They lose the top running back in Devin Moore, and it's a tough place to recruit to get kids to come to Wyoming. And then when you say they play Texas, at Colorado, at Air Force, at Florida Atlantic, and at Utah, doesn't look good this year in Laramie.
They actually beat Tennessee last year.
Right, so
I mean, that was one bright spot. Right?
And those that say they know don't know. So we can see Wyoming go down somewhere and shock somebody, but this year I think it's highly unlikely.
And my pick is BYU to take the conference.
I'm gonna go with TCU. I'll take defense over offense any day. I think TCU can play just enough offense to win, but I wouldn't be upset if BYU won it.
Well, the difference is they get TCU and Utah at home, which is a big difference, and they're going to be battle tested like Utah was last year by playing Oklahoma the first week, and then they play the third game. They host Florida State, so I like BYU.
That's a good job by BYU scheduling Florida State and Oklahoma. I can't wait to see that Oklahoma game. First game September 5th.
No excuses now if they run the table like Utah had last year.
Mm-hmm.
For Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook, I'm Tyler Merkovich. For more college football previews, visit footballgameplan.com/NCAA.